In this video, we will show you how to replace your front brake calipers on this Ford F-150. You'll have one of these on each side of your vehicle, and the process is the same. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing you need to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so your front wheel's off the ground. Continuing on from there, we're going to remove all 6 of our 21mm lug nuts and then the wheel. Now that we have the wheel off of there, let's pay close attention to our brake caliper, which we are replacing. To replace the brake caliper, we're going to put a collection receptacle underneath this area and open up the bleeder screw. The bleeder screw is right up along the top area here, and typically it just has a small rubber boot. Now once you have that removed, with a receptacle under this area, we'll be using an 11mm. We're going to open the bleeder screw, wait till you see a steady trickle of fluid. After that, make your way up into the passenger compartment with a pry bar or some sort of rod. We're going to have to press the brake pedal all the way down to the floor and hold it there. Typically, you can rest the pry bar up against the seat, pressing the brake pedal down. That'll help prevent fluid from making its way out of the braking system as we continue on. After completing that, we'll just go ahead and close this bleeder screw again. Now we'll move just below that area to the banjo bolt. This is the bolt that holds the flex hose to the caliper. We want to break this free. Once it is broken free, just lightly tighten it again. Got movement there. There's bottomed out, just a tiny bit further so it does not continue leaking out. Now we're making our way along the back side of the caliper. You're going to find 2 21mm headed mounting bolts holding the caliper bracket to your steering knuckle. There's one up high and one located just below it. We'll remove the first bolt, a quick inspection, start it back in just a couple threads, and then we can fully remove the lower bolt. As we remove the caliper, be extremely careful not to put a tug on your flex hose. That can cause damage and you may have to replace it. As for now, let's just go ahead and put this right up along the top so we can remove the brake pads. To remove our pads, I'm just going to use a pry bar. You can use a screwdriver, whatever you might happen to have. We'll start with the outer pad, just gently driving it towards the center where the rotor would be. As you remove your brake pads, a quick inspection to make sure they're not worn or damaged. If they're worn at an angle, you definitely want to go ahead and replace them. Pay attention to where each one of these pads goes. When you reuse them, you want to make sure they go back in their same corresponding area. Now we're looking along the back side of the caliper again. You can see where the flex hose goes into the caliper. We need to remove the banjo bolt. A quick note about this, you want to make sure you have it so the rear of the caliper is facing upward so fluid does not make its way out. There's our banjo bolt. The brand new caliper should come with a new bolt, so we'll just go ahead and set this aside for recycling. Once you have your brake hose off of the caliper, you need to give it a thorough inspection. Look along each side of the flex hose where it connects to the caliper and where it rests up against the banjo bolt. There should be a gasket in each of these areas. I can see on mine, the one next to my banjo bolt is still on the banjo bolt and the other one is on the caliper. Confirm that you have neither on the flex hose itself, and the flex hose is still in good usable order. And there it is, friends. Let's go ahead and dump this out inside a collection receptacle and you can recycle this properly. Let's prepare our brand new caliper for installation. Before we can install this, we want to disassemble it and lubricate several things. Let's have a look along the back side here. Along the back, the first thing I like to do is remove the banjo bolt with the brand new gaskets. As you can tell, we have two brand new gaskets. We will be using those and never reusing our original gaskets. You can't have a leak that way. Continuing on, we'll be using a 14mm for each one of our two caliper slider mounting bolts. Let's set this portion of the caliper aside and we'll deal with the bracket itself. Now for each one of the slider pins, you just want to go ahead and take hold of that caliper slider pin and the boot. We're trying to remove the pair of them from the caliper. We'll add some high temperature lubricant to each one of the slider pins here and down along the very tip of that boot. That's the area that will go up against the caliper bracket. We want to have some lubricant here to help keep the moisture out. Go ahead and press that into position, wiggle it around, make sure everything's lubricated and seated properly. Repeat the process on the other side of the caliper bracket. With both of those done, we'll continue on with our high temperature lubricant and lubricate 4 areas on the caliper bracket. There's 2 on each side. These are the areas where the caliper tins will sit, and we want to make sure that we have lubricant here for vibration dampening and noise reduction. When installing your caliper bracket tins, you want to pay attention along the backside there. You're going to find you have a small ear and a larger ear. The small ear is the inboard side, close to where the rotor will sit. The larger ear is essentially the locking ear, and that's going to go on the outboard side. So we'll go ahead and start with the inboard side and roll the outboard side down and into position. If you have a hard time squeezing it by hand, you can use some pliers if necessary. Listen for a click, give it a light tug to make sure it's properly secured. Repeat the process for all. Now I've got all 4 tins on there. We'll set the bracket aside. Continue on with the rest of the caliper. For the caliper, we're having a look along where the pistons are and the 3 ears on the outboard side. We're going to continue with high temperature lubricant in all 5 of these areas. 2 pistons, 3 ears. Now we can get back over to the vehicle. Now let's get our caliper bracket in place. We're going to start in each of our 2 mounting bolts. I've already cleaned the threads and applied some blue thread locker. Once you have those started in, go ahead and snug them up. The torque for each of these is 184 foot-pounds. Now it's time to install our brake pads. When looking at your brake pads, we want to have them in the same orientation as when you had removed them. Typically, for the brake pads themselves, the inboard pad should have 2 raised areas on the backing, as you can see here. That's enlarged for the piston on the caliper itself, so that is the inboard pad. Let's start getting these in place. Now it's time to install the caliper. We're going to take this caliper and slide it right over the brake pads and over each one of our 2 slider pins. Once you have that in place, it's time to install our 2 caliper slider mounting bolts. Start them in, snug them up. The torque for these is 27 foot-pounds. Now it's time to install our brake flex hose to the caliper. Take your brand new banjo bolt with one of your new gaskets, and we're going to slide it through our brake flex hose. Now once you have that through there, we'll continue on with our next new gasket on the opposite side of the flex hose. At this point, you have a gasket on each side of the flex hose. Let's get this in position up against the caliper. For this, we want to have our banjo bolt aligned, so we'll just go ahead and get that into position. Continuing on, you'll find that the flex hose has a small hook that needs to fit into its corresponding mounting point. Once everything's aligned, go ahead and start in the mounting bolt, snug it up. The torque for this is 26 foot-pounds. Take hold of the flex hose, confirm it's properly secured. Now continuing on, it's time to do a gravity bleed on our brake caliper. We'll make sure we have a collection receptacle under this area. I'm going to remove my bleeder screw cover from the area. We will be reusing this. Just go ahead and set that aside. Just a quick inspection of that. Now continuing from this point, you'll have to make your way into the passenger compartment and remove whatever you have holding that brake pedal down. Pump up the brake pedal, and then we'll make our way back out here to open up our bleeder screw. Now that we've removed that, we can go ahead and open up our bleeder screw. I'm using a 3/8 wrench for this. We'll wait until we see a steady trickle of fluid making its way out, and we can close this off. All right, as you can tell, we've got a steady trickle of fluid coming out of here with no air bubbles. Now at this point, once you have this closed off, you're going to want to go ahead and pump up your brake pedal till it's nice and firm. If it feels as though your brake pedal is squishy for any reason, you may still have air trapped in the system, in which case you'd want to do a manual bleed. Otherwise, go ahead and clean up your mess and we'll continue on with our reinstallation. After cleaning your mess, we'll just go ahead and put on our cover. One last quick inspection in this area, we'll reinstall our wheel. Now with the wheel safely back down on the ground, we're going to torque each one of our lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Okay friend, we finished our job. The next thing that you need to do is go ahead and pump up that brake pedal one more time, double check for leaks, and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Before we start removing anything up inside the engine compartment, you need to remove each one of your wheels and make your way to the caliper. On each caliper, you're going to find a bleeder screw. It needs to be opened. After you open it, go ahead and close it off. If it does not open or breaks, that's something that you need to take care of before you continue your process. Before we open up the master cylinder, it's always a good idea to make sure you clean up any of the surrounding area, especially along the top of the master cylinder. I'm going to use some compressed air and a clean rag. Now that we're sure that all the bleeder screws open up on our brakes, we're underneath the hood at that master cylinder. We need to remove as much fluid from inside the master cylinder as possible and replace it with brand new DOT3 brake fluid up to the maximum so we can start our brake bleed. Now I have a fluid extractor here. I can remove the fluid. Get this up to that maximum line. Reinstall your brake fluid cap. Now it's time to bleed the brakes. We're starting at the right rear, passenger side rear. Once we're done at the right rear, we're going to go over and do the exact same thing over on the driver's side rear, and then we're going to make our way to the master cylinder to top it off. To bleed the brakes, it's going to be easiest with a second person. The second person will be up inside the vehicle and they're going to pump up the brake pedal for us. They'll pump it approximately 3 to 5 times until it starts to feel firm. Hold it, let me know, and I'm going to open up our bleeder screw. When we open this up, we're paying attention to fluid coming out and making sure we do not see any air bubbles. We'll have to repeat this process until you see only fluid and no air. We have our collection receptacle under here, hand and eye protection. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. Go ahead and pump. You can release the brake pedal. At this point, I have no air coming out of the system for several times bleeding here. We'll go over to the driver's side, repeat this same process after we've cleaned our mess and reinstalled our bleeder screw cover. Now we'll make our way back up to the master cylinder here on the driver's side. We're going to have to top it off. As you can tell, the fluid is a little low. We want to bring it up to the maximum. Now I'm over at the passenger side front after finishing bleeding the driver's side rear and stopping at the master cylinder to top it off. Let's go ahead and repeat our process here. Once we're done here, I'm going to go over to the driver's side front and repeat the process, and we'll make our way back to that master cylinder. Go ahead and pump the brake, please. Go ahead and pump. We'll go ahead and close up this bleeder screw, make sure it's nice and tight, clean up our mess. You can release the brake pedal, thank you. Now I'm going to go over to the driver's side, repeat this process. Let's get this up to that maximum line. Reinstall your brake fluid cap. Okay friend, we finished our job. The next thing you want to do is just make sure you pump up that brake pedal, double check for leaks. When you install the wheels, torque those to 150 foot-pounds. Close the hood, take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.